I'm going to start off with this. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is a masterpiece and the best game on the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis, depending on how you want to say it. With some of the best gameplay, music, level design ever made. Now, if you don't like that, then yeah, sorry, this video might not be for you. The only two games which I'll hear an argument for is Gunstar Heroes and Streets of Rage 2, and you can fight me in the comments. I'm going to be discussing my love for this game and how it has grown on me over the years. I want to talk about the range of different topics, including the production, the storytelling, the music, and its legacy. I hope to convince you by the end of this that it's not only one of the best games on the Genesis, but also one of the best games of all time. Oh yes, I'm going there. Now, I understand this game has flaws, don't worry, I'm not stupid, and I will go through these. I'm just not going to be completely getting on my knees and presenting oneself for this game. As always, if you do like this content and think it earns it, please give a like and a subscription. It really helps the channel grow. And as said, I want to hear your comments below, so please put them down there. The first question is, how'd you go from Sonic 2? One of the most popular games for the system. Well, that's simple. You go off and send your Japanese team to go make Sonic CD. What's Sonic CD, you ask? Well, I considered it the stepchild no one was sure about, simply because it came on a hardware barely anyone had. I've only ever seen one Mega CD in the wild, and even then it was playing Echo the Dolphin. That's not to say Sonic CD is a bad game, far from it, but it is never considered as the official Sonic 3 just because of its availability and direction the game took. I will say, however, the box art for this game is fire, and I would buy a copy of this game for that alone. But that is for another video, for another day, and we move back on to Sonic 3. At the start of development, the game was being handled in the US by the Sega Technical Institute. However, the producer Yuji Naka allegedly said he refused to develop another Sonic game if he had to work with the Americans again, and only wished to work with the Japanese developers.
You are racist!
So STI split into two teams. One compromised the Japanese developers to make Sonic 3, and the Americans who worked with Sonic Spinball. And we know that turned out to be an amazing game.
You serious?
The original concept for Sonic 3 was that it was going to be using isometric graphics using the Sega Virtua Processor chip. However, this idea was abandoned because the chip wouldn't be ready until 1994, and companies like money. So the team decided to go back to the good old 2D conventional platformer. The idea was not scrapped entirely though, as 3D isometric concept was used for making Sonic 3D Blast, which was released in 1996. I don't care what anyone says, that game made me so sick playing it. Danny did not do well with early 3D games. The game was finally released in North America February 2nd, 1994, in Europe February 24th, and Japan May 27th. The idea that Japan got it last is insane considering Sonic was Sega's baby, but being made in America was probably the main reason for this. The game also featured various artworks depending on your area. Japan and America's cover followed a similar trend as their previous titles, whereas Europe thought this was a good idea. How, in all that was holy, did you think this was a good box art? Seriously, how did we go from this to this? This feels like the console version of a hate crime. Additionally, you may feel I'm glossing over the addition of a certain character on the front of the box. I'm not, and I will get to him. Boot up Sonic 3 and you're immediately met with an upbeat jingle and somewhat 3D Sonic, showing this game means business. Now I know with Sonic games you're expected just to jump into the gameplay, but alas, what's this? A save system? Multiple save slots? Yes, Sonic 3 had a save system where the player could save the game. Why, oh why were you not here before? Additionally, the player could choose here how they wanted to play the game, either as Sonic, or Tails, or both at the same time. This little feature blew minds and probably stopped a lot of squabbling between siblings. After starting your file, you begin the game, where the game takes place soon after the events of Sonic 2. The Death Star, I mean the Death Egg, has crashed into the floating Angel Island, and Sonic has gone to explore it. Sonic jumps off the plane into supersonic mode just to fly off and go explore. Upon flying into the jungle, a red character flies up, punches the supersonic out of him, takes the emeralds and runs away, leaving Sonic thinking, what the fuck? And the first level begins. This is a lot to take in, but it immediately sets the stage without any text or dialogue. But we do need to go through all this because, well, I do. First of all, seeing Supersonic appear makes the state official and canon. In Sonic 2, obtaining Supersonic was optional and didn't impact the story. But here he is, and here he is in the story. Secondly, this cheeky little character is called Knuckles, who will do his best to stop our progress throughout the adventure. I will admit, for a long time I thought Knuckles was a girl and was pink. I do blame the European box art for this. Knuckles is an echidna. What's an echidna? Well, I describe it as the Aussie version of a hedgehog, but they're not actually related in any way. They're natural to Australia, and I have stroked one in the wild. And by stroked, I mean its quills. Now, for all those who don't know, echidnas have 4 endings to their ending. Do not ask why I know that, but know this point gets brought up a lot during the Retro Wars podcast. Knuckles was created to be a representation of power as opposed to Sonic speed. And power he has, as he has just punched the Supersonic out of Sonic. This is a massive statement. Supersonic is akin to a Super Saiyan, and Knuckles just punched it out of him. I didn't understand the level of achievement this was as a kid, but as an adult, I'm in awe of this moment. Now, Knuckles becomes antagonistic to the player after being tricked by Robotnik off screen. Where Robotnik's plan failed in Sonic 2, he landed on the Angel Island and was confronted by Knuckles. Robotnik managed to convince Knuckles, and Sonic is after the Master Emerald, and Knuckles, being quite dense, just went, yeah, okay, I'll do that, and he agreed to help Robotnik stop Sonic and Tails. We all caught up? Good. Now back to the level. You immediately realise Sonic's sprite has had a redesign. He is wider compared to his 1, 2 and CD sprite, and I wasn't sure of it at first. However, I think it works extremely well considering the world he's in. I am often back and forth about which one I prefer, and I don't think I'll ever come to a decision in my head. What do you reckon in the comments? Do you prefer Slim or Chunky Sonic? God, sidetrack again. The game allows you to play, as I said earlier, once more as Sonic or Tails. In the previous game, the two were just palette swaps of each other, but now there are stark differences between them. As Sonic, you can do everything Sonic could normally do, but now when you double tap the jump button, he uses an insta-shield, which can help attack or defend Sonic against certain enemies and bosses. It does take some practice to get used to, but once you can, it's pretty handy to have. The big change here is Tails. Not only can he swim, but he can actually fly by double pressing the jump button. This puts the game on easy mode, as he can safely make jumps, but it also allows Tails to explore areas which Sonic cannot reach. This flying ability also carries over to multiplayer, where Tails can carry Sonic and Tails becomes too tired, which is a great mechanic. Like, to be honest, we wanted this in Sonic 2, and I still want it in Sonic 2. Like, why am I not going back to Knuckles? Let's just pretend we don't know the real reason for this, because we've got to mention it later on. As well as the new characters having new abilities, there are also new power-ups to play with, the Fire, Electric and Bubble Shield. Previously the shield just allowed the player to take a hit before disappearing, but now the shields have their own bonus elements to them. The Fire Shield allows Sonic to stand in fire and lava, as well as having a mid-air dash. The Electric Shield allows Sonic to stand in electricity, as well as having a double jump and attract rings to him. Whereas the Bubble Shield allows Sonic to bounce, and it's always fun to see how high he can get. But it also allows Sonic to breathe underwater, removing the need to collect any bubbles. Fun fact for the Fire and Electric Shield, if you jump into the water when either one of those is equipped, it'll disappear, which makes complete sense, and I like that point. Sadly though, for Tails and another certain character, the shields do not have that ability to mid-air dash, double jump or bounce, as tapping the jump button again will simply activate their own unique ability. Now, for Sonic 3, we notice each zone is massive in comparison to predecessors. Even Angel Island Zone is nearly 3 times the length of Emerald Hill Zone when you stretch it all out. There are multiple ways to complete each level, as Sonic were always known for this previously, but there is also far more secrets and different paths to explore, as the game is focused on exploration than it had been before, maybe akin to Sonic CD, and the reason for this we'll discuss separately in the video. Each stage seems to have their own little gimmick, which once you explore, you'll never see it again for the rest of the game, such as spinning tops you can ride in Marble Garden Zone, or cannons you can shoot out of in the Carnival Night Zone. This helps the game feel fresh and allows each zone to stand out on their own. Whilst I say each zone is unique, in reality it's all one connected world. Most Sonic games, there isn't really an explanation from how Sonic and Tails jump from one zone to the other. But for Sonic 3, the developers went in there with the hope of, again, more story without using text. From being lowered into the zone by Tails after the previous one was destroyed, to having Knuckles send us down below, or being fired out of a cannon leading to possibly one of the coolest moments in Sonic history. Yeah, I can snowboard. It just helped the sense of world building. The idea of transitioning also happens between each act. Again, at the end of each act, Sonic would usually run past a spinning sign, the screen fades to black and the next act starts. In Sonic 3, no, the act ends and the points are totaled, and the next act begins from where you are. Meaning the two levels are just one big map. Genius! Also, side note, again, when you reach the end of the act, the spinning sign falls to the ground and the player can hit it for more points. And sometimes when it hits the floor, it can reveal extra rings or even a power-up before settling down to signal the end of the act. It's a cool little game, and yes, I have attempted to keep it going as long as I can. Like seriously, I wonder what the world record for that is. There must be a record. People are do stupid things with world records. Someone let me know what the world record is. The second level of each act mostly has a brand new feel to it, including a music transition which is a slight variation of the first act, which they didn't need to do, but it feels great. Prime examples of differing levels include the second act of the Angel Island Zone, which is on fire, and the Carnival Night Zone where Knuckles has turned off all the lights and flooded the place, the cheeky little devil. It is probably about time I do go through each stage and give my overall thoughts, starting with Angel Island. This is a great zone. It introduces the player straight into the game and the setting of the world. It's colourful, bright and full of life. It also shows that Robotnik is not messing around when he sets everything on fire. The set piece with him using his ship attempting to bomb the heck out of Sonic is also so cool. Hydro City Zone is one of my favourite water levels of any game. Water levels usually suck because everything is slow. Not here though. There are parts in this game which could be some of the fastest and some of the biggest jumps in all of Sonic. Sonic is going so fast at points he's running across the water Jesus style. And even when you are in the water, the game puts enough in there to keep the player moving quickly. I had nightmares it would be something like Labyrinth or Aquatic Ruin Zone, but I can safely say it is far from this. It also has one of the most amazing songs in the series, which I regularly listen to at work. The design of this stage is amazing, as it shows evidence of an ancient race who lived here prior. This could have been, and most likely, with the Echidna tribe, but there are also arguments it could have been a race that predates the Spiny Warriors, but having this zone just helps flesh out the lore even more. It could also be shown that there's pretty much water in every zone in this game here, but the game just gives the player enough tools to get through it and get out quickly, and it never really takes away from the action. Third up is Marvel Garden Zone. Now this place slows things down dramatically, where Sonic will be being pulled by ropes or using spinning tops to move throughout the levels. A lot of people point to this being the worst zone in the game, but I don't mind it. Probably because I pretty much mastered the spinning top and it gives me no problems. Also there's a little bit in the zone's music which I just absolutely stan. Fourth is the Carnival Night Zone. Now similar to Casino Night Zone, it is bright and beautiful, looking like a place to have lots of fun and steal all your money. There are plenty of gimmicks here, such as balloon platforms which fill up when you jump, and for years I thought it was a jelly-like substance. Balloons to bounce on, cannons to fire you out of, and large cylinders to run you up and down. And these things, whatever they are. Fifth is the Ice Cap Zone, and I'll say it again, the set piece is incredible. Like it's one of the coolest things ever and just shows how much of a badass Sonic is. And you realise quite early, Sonic moves are normal here. Yes, he doesn't slip around. See developers? See? Just because there's ice doesn't mean you have to slip around everywhere. Here, Sonic gets to play in a Crystal Wonderland with its own little loop puzzle to figure out and one springy bungee platform. I don't know what else you'd call it. Which will probably launch you higher than you've ever been before, but oh my lord, it's fun. The final zone is the Launch Base Zone, and you're in Robotnik's territory, as you can see the Death Egg being prepared to launch back into space. My god, Robotnik really is incredible. Here, Sonic has to evade security systems as not to call more badniks, and being thrown around by giant-sized teacups. It's a highly mechanised area in contrast to all the others, but what do you expect from Robotnik has been allowed to do what he wants? But that was it. 6 zones, which in reality isn't a lot. Great zones, don't get me wrong, but just not enough. And before we get to the grand reveal, wink wink, of why this is, there are a few other areas I need to talk about. First up is the special stages. In the previous game, it was a race to find 50 rings and either in Sonic 1 reach the end of the stage and jump in a big ring, or for Sonic 2 hit a checkpoint and jump into the sparkles. Here the system is shaken up somewhat to something beautiful. The entry point into the special stages are now giant rings hidden through the stage. This in itself adds the need to explore each level and something that was surely missing in the previous games. The special stage itself is now gone a major overhaul, with Sonic now finding himself on a giant globe-like structure and having to touch all the balls into red. Touching a red ball ends the game, and other balls include a white star ball, which will bounce you backwards, and the orange star ball, which will make the player fly across the stage. The player will automatically move forward, and all they can do is turn right, left, or jump. It seems easy enough, but as time goes on, the stage gets faster and faster, which means inside you, the adrenaline's going crazy. This is especially the case where you have to be hunting around for the final few balls, and the level is just getting faster and faster. Touch all the blue balls, and you'll be rewarded with a Chaos Emerald. Obtain all the rings, and you'll be rewarded with a Continue. There are little tricks to do this, so much as when you see a large amount of blue spheres in a 4-sided shape, you can run around the edge. Doing this will turn all the spheres into rings, counting them as touched, but also make sure you remove the threat of those blue spheres becoming red spheres. They are by far the best special stages around, just because of how the player can get so panicked. But the good thing is, due to each zone having around 6 rings within them, there are plenty of opportunities to grab all 7 Chaos Emerald across the game. Obtaining all 7 Chaos Emeralds gets you Super Sonic, which plays exactly like how he did in Sonic 2, but my word, he's cool. Sorry though, Tails, nothing for you, because you're obviously not cool enough. Usually, I have Super Sonic unlocked by Hydro City, just because I've played this game to death, and it's a bit of a flex, and I'm cool. The developers didn't scrap the idea of getting rewarded for collecting rings though, as now if you go past the checkpoint 50 rings, you can go to a special stage, where the player can win rings, power-ups and lives. It's not necessary to complete, but the game is a little fun activity regardless. There is a lot of history around Sonic 3 and its music, and it's the main reason it's regularly left out of any collections. Let's just say this now, the music's fire. Aside from the Carnival Night Zone, no, that sucks. But there was always a rumour floating around that Sega had been working with Michael Jackson to develop some of these tracks. This wasn't confirmed at the time as he was uncredited. There's also probably a range of reasons why he ended up leaving the project, and we're never going to know the exact reason.
This is a sickness of the highest order.
It wasn't until years later, and I mean years, MJ's involvement was finally confirmed. And due to the licensing issue with his family, the game sat in purgatory for years. Well, this is because there are 4 songs of a certain Michael Jackson flavour to them. Basically, you can make the claim they're either influenced or straight ripped from him. Those being the credits music, which is meant to be Stranger in Moscow, Knuckles' theme music, Blood on the Dance Floor, Carnival Night Zone, vocal samples of Jam, and Launch Base Zone, Speed Demon. For clarity, there is no way I'm doing a comparison video with those tracks in here, because I don't want the ghost of MJ coming after me and copyright striking me. Funnily enough, there's also another track which causes controversy, and it's the Ice Cap Zone, as it is a straight rip of the song Hard Time by the Complete Jetsons. And this is interesting itself because Bradley Buxer, who is the writer of music in Sonic 3, was a member of the Complete Jetsons, but obviously his bandmates weren't happy with this. It's sad that the game never got to be released for so long because of music, but the law is law. And with certain players now being dead, the original version is probably never coming out again. I do just love the music for this game and it's just so great. Before I get into the final aspect of Sonic 3, I want to briefly mention the multiplayer. In Sonic 2, you could race against your friend, with it being Sonic or Tails. However, the frame rate was atrocious. This time the multiplayer was redesigned and you could finally pick Knuckles. There were 5 zones for the players to race across. Azure Lake, a short but speedy course across the waters of Angel Island. Balloon Park, a bouncy stage similar to Carnival Night Zone with a loop and several bumpers and balloons to get ahead. Chrome Gadget, a tour through a Death Egg-like maze with platforms and force fields. Desert Palace. This desert ruin takes the player through high-speed loops and over quicksand bridges. An Endless Mine, an abandoned mine cave. Each of these zones in competition loop around, and the player's goal is to pass through a post-like obstacle 5 times. This is so much better to Sonic 2, as they shrank things down and reduced the amount of things on screen so it was able to just run better. What was also so much better was the bosses, as Robotnik was back and he appears at the end of each second act, and as the previous games he comes with all sorts of nonsense. None of them are too difficult, but they're just cool. New to this game was that each level of Act 1 had its own boss. The game didn't need to do this, but it just made it a better game and helped it stand out compared to its predecessors. Now, out of all the bosses, I love the Marble Garden second act boss, because Robotnik has just destroyed the whole place. So you have to have Tails carry Sonic in the air and jump off him to hit Robotnik, which is so cool. Don't worry though, if Sonic does fall off screen, Tails will just go back and get him. With the final Robotnik boss, it comes in 3 stages, and Big Arms being the last one. But once he's beaten, the game just ends and it's like, eh, okay, is that it? As I said earlier, Sonic 3 is a short game, and I can imagine a lot of fans were happy having the Sonic 3 game, but were longing for so much more. And to be honest, they expected so much more. Because this was only half the game. Okay, I know we all know this is the case, but I'm trying to tell a story and build a bit of suspense. Shut up! I'm just trying to have fun. Now, for those who don't know, Sonic 3 and the second part were going to be huge, and this wouldn't fit on the original cartridge and would cost a fortune. Now, while Sega were trying to figure this out, they were receiving a lot of pressure from none other than Ronald McDonald, who had the toys ready to go. So STI decided to make the decision to split the game into 2 parts, with Sonic 3 coming out first. Well, what happened to the second part? Let's jump into part 2 of this video, shall we? On the 18th of October 1994, just 10 months after the release of Sonic 3, the world was introduced to Sonic and Knuckles. Now, I can speak from my own experience here. I got this game in December when little Danny turned 8 years old, and my dad bought me a copy of it for my birthday. The first thing you should say about it is the box art. The box art is possibly one of the best ones of all time, and I will fight you on that. It's just so smooth. The black silhouette of Sonic against the red of Knuckles. Look, I will fight you. Put in the comments which box art you think is better, but then put what country you live and I'll come and find you. Now, upon getting the cartridge out, you immediately notice it has a weird thing on top. This is the lock-on technology, which has allowed you to connect Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles to be combined and become the game it was meant to be. Now, I do want to talk about this lock-on technology a little bit more, but I need to talk about Sonic and Knuckles separately first. There were differences compared to Sonic 3. Tails was now out, the multiplayer was gone, the save states was gone, and Knuckles was now a fully playable character. Knuckles is a very different character to Sonic, as he's unable to jump as high, and yeah, he could climb walls and glide. Don't ask me how he does it, to be fair, I don't know, but then Tails can fly. I just live with it and don't ask too many questions. Sonic and Knuckles has the same graphical style as 3, because it's the same game. The game has brand new zones from Sonic and Knuckles to explore. The cool thing here is that Sonic and Knuckles each have their own path to follow, which helps focus on their own ability. This also adds replayability to the game because you want to do it with Sonic, then you want to finish it with Knuckles. See, Tails just followed the same story beats as Sonic, but Knuckles shows a completely different perspective as he's hunting a robot called Egg Robo, as Knuckles' story technically takes place after Sonic's story, hence why there's no Robotnik. Everything else stays the same as power shields. As I hinted up earlier, Knuckles didn't get the benefit of the extra button because he'll simply go into a glide. You can obtain Chaos Emeralds in the same way, and Knuckles does have the ability to go super. For Tails, but we'll add this in a bit. Let's just go through the new zones, which total 7. Woohoo! One more than the first. Although I know 2 of them are just Act 1 stages. Shut up, I know, I can just talk about some of the bosses as well. For Mushroom Hill Zone, a place full of mushrooms, I wonder if they ripped this from Mario. It is fun playing in mushroom fields, and then the seasons change, which is cool. Although they have these pulley things, which can take a while to grow on me, and it really has over the years. Flying Battery Zone is Robotnik's ship. Now, this was actually meant to be before Ice Cap Zone, where Sonic could kick open the door and use the door to snowboard, which would have been so cool. God damn, I hate you, Ronald. Please sponsor this channel, though. There is one element I thought was really cool here, and that's when Sonic swings from handle to handle. It may sound like nothing, but in the previous game, he just bunny hopped, but this looks so cool. Sandopolis, is that how you pronounce it? Is a sand-based level. Duh. The first level is all outside, and Sonic can upscale like a boss. Like, why can't I be that graceful? For the boss though, you have to encourage it to hop towards you, and when ready, you jump over it and smack it into the sand. Easy enough. Except in one situation. Which includes birds. Shut up, later. The second act is inside a pyramid, where you have a little maze to do and keep the lights on. Don't keep the lights on, and the ghosts are going to come after you. And this level used to give me the heebie-jeebies. Stupid ghosts. Then there's Lava Reef Zone. This zone is so pretty. The first half you're in a cave full of lava, but in the second half the lava cools, and the whole level just becomes so pretty and it's completely different. God, I love this game. There's also some amazing scenes in the game where you can see the death egg stuck in the ground from a distance, but then later on you're right next to the thing and holy shit, that thing is huge. The Hidden Palace Zone. Now this is where Sonic finds the Master Emeralds and in turn Knuckles. You do have to fight him, but it's a pretty much easy fight. Well, I think it is. This is the point of the story where Robotnik turns on Knuckles and steals the Master Emerald, and then giving him an electric shock. Shattered, Knuckles realizes he's been duped and shows Sonic the way to get to the next zone. Sky Sanctuary. Now I love this zone. I love this music. I love the fact I can bounce on clouds. Some call this zone boring, but I don't. I find it fun. We've been in the lava cave and now I'm all high as the gods. I get to fight Metal Sonic in old school Robotnik fights, which is cool. And having Metal Sonic just helps it link to the previous games. And the remake of this on Sonic Generations is just so much fun. I do feel like I'm just going to be fighting people in the comments again. Eventually Sonic has to fight the newest Metal Sonic, who has just been on the juice. After beating his roided version, Sonic runs for his life as the Sky Sanctuary just falls apart. This set piece is amazing as it shows the panic as the whole world is just crumbling around him before finally jumping onto the Death Egg. Now, go back a step. Remember I said things were different for Knuckles? Well, yeah, here's where his story ends, where he fights the Super Saiyan version of the roided out Metal Sonic, which is a cool fight. Want another bit of comic lore? In Sonic the Comic, Super Sonic rips the Metal Sonic to pieces. Yeah, and then just beats the shit out of Knuckles. Super Sonic ain't a nice guy in these comics, he really ain't. Then we've got the Death Egg Zone, where you're in the heart of the beast. And for sure, Sonic is doing his best Luke Skywalker impression. We're in Robotnik's world and this level is great. There are upside down bits where you mess with gravity, electricity and light tunnels. It really does feel like Sonic has no control over in this situation. The boss however gets a lot of flack and I agree with you that this is one of the worst ones, as you have to make these robots hit Robotnik by controlling gravity and I just hate it. This takes us to the final boss, where Sonic must fight a huge robotic monster. You first must destroy the fingers, and Spin Dash is key here, and once the fingers are gone out comes the main boss. You then have to run for your life and then dodge a huge Emerald Power Kamehameha to smack the boss, and then just keep running. Upon beating the boss, the next step depends on having all the Chaos Emeralds. Let's just say if you don't have them, okay, the game just ends. Everyone happy, blah 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 blah. If you do have the Chaos Emeralds, well, look, I'm not going to spoil it now, let's just combine both of the games into what they were meant to be.
Shun! Ha!
As a complete game, Sonic 3 and Knuckles saw the several changes. As Sonic, you get the full experience. As Tails, you can now carry on from the Sonic 3 side and do the second half of the story, following Sonic's story. But you can't do the special bit at the end, which I've not talked about. For Knuckles, well, it's big for him, because he is now playable in Sonic 3, and there were sections that were just made for him. This just makes the game so much bigger. God, it feels so good to say that. The biggest story change is the Chaos Emeralds. Now, as we talked about, each character can obtain 7 in the Sonic 3 side, with Sonic and Knuckles being able to go Super. After beating the boss at Launch Base Zone, Sonic, Tails and Knuckles lose the Chaos Emeralds, and they're sent to the Master Emerald at the Hidden Palace Zone, and split between the 7 Chaos Emeralds surrounding it. See, the Chaos Emeralds are actually in half, and the second halves can be found in Sonic and Knuckles. As the player accesses the special stage in the same way using the big rings, but this time you're transported to the Master Emerald, and you pick which special stage you wish to do. It is now time to tackle 7 more special stages to complete the second half of your emeralds. The fun begins, and once you achieve this little goal, and the emeralds are all complete. As a reward, Sonic and Knuckles achieve a hyper form. Knuckles can cause an earthquake to destroy badniks, whereas Sonic gains a cool move which causes a flash. In this flash, Sonic does a double jump and destroys every badnik on screen, and it's so goddamn cool. Sadly, these are the only appearances of these characters. Now remember Tails got nothing in Sonic 3 after getting the emeralds? Well, the developers were finally kind to him, and after collecting all 14 emeralds, Tails will become Super Tails, where he now gains an army of flickies, who will chase after all his enemies, and Tails can just sit there, get a drink, have a smoke, and let his minions do the work. The only flaw, is the boss of Sandoopolis Act 1. Yes, see, we're going back to this, I do remember. As I earlier said, the aim is to get the boss to move forward, and then you jump over it and then kick it in the sand. However, with Super Tails, the flickies just keep going after it and don't allow it to move, which means you can't finish the stupid boss. You have to wait until the timer runs out, and then you go back to normal, and then you can finish the boss. Stupid birds. What? Like, I know I'm watching this footage right now, and it's kind of contradicting everything I said. Have I suddenly got dementia? I know I got this footage off YouTube, but I swear to God, when I played the original game, the birds would just go after it. Am I stupid? Could someone tell me, have my brain just had a brain fart? Frustration aside, I have briefly talked about how throughout this video I think it's important to discuss how this game is as a whole. The whole thing is amazing at storytelling through visual cues. Now at the start I said how amazing it was seeing the introduction scene, and it's set and told so much in seconds. Later on in this act you see Robotnik bombing the island to get Sonic, and then setting it on fire. Like, he's prepared to do anything to kill Sonic. You wonder how Knuckles feels about this, like he's just going around annihilating everything. Like, Robotnik doesn't even appear until he's sneaking in the background, and then him coming out the waterfall for his grand reveal is amazing. The Marble Garden Zone, my god, Robotnik just flat down destroyed it? Like, how desperate must you be? He doesn't care. Knuckles' face must be going, what the fuck, this is my people's stuff. During the launch base egg zone, you see Knuckles being his collateral damage as he falls during the launch of the Death Egg. Robotnik doesn't even care if Knuckles could die in this instance. Like the killer death weapon, he just needs to get it out there. I've already mentioned the set piece and Lava Reef Zone with the Death Egg, which is amazing, and I still can't get over how cool this is. However, the lore expands in the following zone, the Hidden Palace Zone, where Sonic finds the Master Emerald with all the Chaos Emeralds which you've been teleported to and from. When you do face Knuckles, you can see behind them is an artwork which depicts Robotnik running away with the Master Emerald, being chased by Super Sonic. This is so amazing for the lore, but it's amazing for the player because finding this out for the first time, you wonder what this all means. You know it's Sonic and Robotnik, but you don't know what that particular story's telling. And guess where you find this out? The final battle. See, we are going back there. If you do have Super Sonic, you go after Robotnik, who is running away with the Master Emerald. This level can only be accessed by Sonic having the ability of either Super or Hypersonic. As Super, it's just easier to say this, so we're going to go with Super. You have to chase after Robotnik through an asteroid field, and you can use the jump button to boost forwards. Hitting the asteroid will send Super Sonic back and losing you precious seconds. Super Sonic has to keep collecting rings to make that timer stop hitting 0. If you hit 0, you're dead. When Sonic does catch up to Robotnik, he's in a huge ship firing rockets at you. You just have to fly around and guide those missiles to back at Robotnik's head. It takes a bit of practice, but once you just go around in a circle, yeah, you should be okay. After multiple rockets, the ship blows up and the robot flies off in his mech and the chase continues. And with this, the prophecy is now fully fulfilled. As you can clearly see, Super Sonic is after Robotnik, who has the Master Emerald. This time, Super Sonic just has to hit Robotnik before flying back and trying it again and again. Eventually, Robotnik's robot is destroyed, and Super Sonic flies off with the Master Emerald, saving the day. Sonic returns the Master Emerald to its rightful place, and the island can float again once more, completing the story. And what a story it is. I don't remember finishing a game and feel like I've really achieved something. And that's pretty much it for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But it's not the end for this video. No, there are other things we need to look at. First of all, as I said earlier, the lock-on technology. You think it was just for Sonic 3? Oh no. Throw Sonic 2 on top and now Knuckles becomes playable in Sonic 2, which is just so cool. It's like having DLC. Having played Sonic 2 to death, you get to play and explore the game all over again. There are even areas made specifically for Knuckles, although it does make the final boss a lot harder due to Knuckles' stupid jump. If you throw Sonic 1 on top, you get an endless amount of special stages to complete. Why you would do this, I don't know, but if you're an adrenaline junkie, this could be a way to get your fix. These elements are what makes Sonic and Knuckles great and make me love Sega even more for doing so. But sadly, as I said, due to copyright issues, the game has been locked away for many years. However, one version I do want to talk about is what came with Sonic Origins. The game was now playable in widescreen and playing on my Switch just looked beautiful, and my eyes were just drooling to see how good this game looked. Now, one reason this game got released was because a lot of tracks were considered a pain in the arse, and it was removed when put with beta tracks. Now, some people like these, some people don't, although I do prefer the Carnival Night music, which went from this to this. With additional DLC to Sonic Origins, Amy Rose was added to the game, including Sonic 3 and Knuckles, so I was over the moon. Amy has her Pico Hammer, which you can swing at enemies. And she also has the ability to go Super and Hyper, similar to Sonic and Knuckles. Poor Tails. In her new Super Hyper form, she's able to throw her hammer around, which is actually terrifying. As for Sonic 3 and Knuckles and its legacy, it's regularly considered one of the best, if not the best Sonic game of all time. It's a great example of amazing storytelling, great music, and fantastic gameplay and graphics. I can admit though I am very biased over this, but I am prepared to hear your arguments, and I really will hear the arguments. But I know poking fan bases can be dangerous, so please be nice. I really do honestly hope you enjoyed this video, and I've worked very hard on this. If it earned your sub, please hit that button and the like button and leave a comment below. I'm not sure what game I'm going to work on next, but let me know what I should be doing. Until then, my name has been Danny, take care of yourself, bye bye.